We're going to show how a unit tax affects supply and demand. In this case, we have the buyer's view, which means the demand curve, which depends on the buyer's price, will not shift. And the question you should ask yourself is, well, what does that mean about the supply curve? And the supply curve, of course, is net of the tax, that the demand curve includes the tax in it, and so the sellers actually need a higher price after the tax, because they're only going to net the difference between that price and the tax. And so as we increase the tax, the supply curve shifts up and to the left, and as you can see, the buyer price rises, the seller price falls as a consequence of this change, and the result looks accordingly. I think we even allow a negative tax here, so a negative tax is a subsidy. The subsidy shifts the supply curve down and to the right and actually lowers the buyer's price below what the seller is receiving. So you can get both effects of a subsidy or a tax in the same diagram by looking at these shifts, and you can play with this yourself afterwards. Now what I'm going to do is go to this next screen where essentially we have the same picture, but now we do this from the seller's point of view. Ultimately it should produce the same results, but now, because it's the seller's point of view, it is the demand curve that shifts, and the tax shifts the demand down. The buyer price still rises because now you have to add the tax on to the buyer price to get the result, and the seller price falls. So the tax causes a demand curve to shift down. This is giving the same results as in the previous picture. It's just representing it differently. Finally, let me do the welfare analysis. So the welfare analysis allocates the surplus, and in the absence of a tax we have a surplus, which is the consumer surplus, the area in blue, and the producer surplus, and the competitive equilibrium maximizes the total of those, which is called the social surplus. As we impose a tax, what happens is the government gets some revenue. The revenue is represented by this rectangle in sort of the purplish color, and then there is some surplus that we're losing that we didn't have before. That's called the deadweight loss. The bigger the tax, the greater the deadweight loss. So you can play with this particular diagram as well to get a full conclusion about how the surplus changes as a tax is imposed.